What up, everybody? It's JJ Conway. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Now, I've got to let you know that we are having some weird connectivity issues all day. People have been having trouble with our connection, whether I'm plugged in, not plugged in, going through my phone, or going through my computer. So, if I have an issue with the connection, just hang with me. It'll catch back up at some point, and we probably will repeat this class again. And so I want to just start off by saying I'm super excited to be here with y'all today. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. We're going to be talking about podcasting. Yep, that's right, y'all. I'm going to open up the back door and show y'all how to start your podcast with $20 or less. In fact, for some of you with a good phone, you don't even need to spend any money to start your podcast. Isn't that great today? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Now, depending on how much time we have left or how many questions we have submitted, I will answer your questions after the end of the lesson. And those questions and this lesson end up being a part of our Building Wealth Together podcast. So if you have a question, make sure you drop it in the chat. That way I'll know to ask the question. If you don't want to have your name attached to your question, all you got to do is go to askjjc.com and it will take you to a Google form, and you can fill that out anonymously and ask your question that way. I will check both the form and the comments as we go along with tonight's content. Let me go ahead and pull up that slide. I'm so excited about this. This is something that a lot of people ask me about. And so what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about how to pick a podcast focus. We're going to talk about the recording gear that you need. We're going to talk about how to edit, especially on a dime when you're getting started. We're going to talk about distribution, marketing, profiting, and we're going to talk about how to last in the marketplace when everybody and their brother has a podcast. Now, look, I want to let you know something right up front. If you are new to me and my body of work, my name is JJ Conway. We do these classes every Thursday night, every first, second, third, and fourth Thursday. On the fifth Thursday, it's usually a wild card night. I sometimes spend time with my family, or we do a rebroadcast, or we come up with a special topic. But today is our 7-figure business building. This second Tuesday of the month is how we look at different ways to help you create multiple streams of income so that your income and your legacy outlasts you. The secret to building wealth is to spend less than you make and invest the rest. And some of us, we don't have a whole lot of difference between what we make and what we live on. So we've got to learn how to rein that in. But some of us just plain don't have enough money. Now, if you don't have enough money, no. I was about to say, if you don't have enough money, drop it in the chat. I need more money. We don't want to tell on you today. How about this? How about this? If you want to leave a legacy with power, if you want to leave something to the third and fourth generation, if you want to have the kind of money to change communities, write power in the chat. How's that? Write power in the chat. You know, today I was talking with somebody about somebody else who gave $1 million in scholarships to folks who went to trade school. And I just, in my heart, it was burdened. I know I've been called to change communities. I've climbed out of over $845,000 in debt. I know I am on my way to having the kind of wealth that changes communities. And as soon as she said that, I was like, ooh, I want that. I want to be that person that writes the $1 million check so that people, especially people that look like me and my kids, can go to college or trade school debt-free. Ooh, y'all. You know, another thing we were talking about today is one of my biggest visions is to host a conference center for certain church events and things like that. Well, if you live the way I live, well, that lifestyle isn't conducive to a profitable conference center. So what do you need? You need somebody with deep pockets who can subsidize the activities because you won't have all the highly profitable activities. So I was like, Lord, I need a lot of money. I need a lot of money to do what I feel like I've been called to do. And if that's for you today, go ahead and put, what are we going to put? We want to put power in the chat. Okay. So now let's go back to this podcast. Oh, you know what? Before I got all excited about being able to give away $1 million of money, who's excited about being able to give away $1 million of money today? I know I'm excited about that because you know, if you have $1 million to give away, that means you have a lot more sitting back in your reserves. You have a lot more sitting back in your legacy, a lot more that you can pass on to your children and their children and their children. I love it. All right, all right. So now, the reason I bring this up, because I want you to understand my mindset. I know we live in a go big or go home kind of culture. We're going to put everything on that piece of plastic because that's how we show faith in ourselves. We show we're betting on ourselves. We show we're all in. We're going to take out all the loans. We're going to go big or go home. We're going to mask the market with all the Facebook ads, and we're going to do that thing, right? Well, the problem is I get a lot of people who went big or went home. Well, they went home broke and they come to me as a financial planner. And so we have to clean them up, dust them off, and put them back on the right path. So while there are many, many other ways to get your podcast started, I'm going to show you a way to get your podcast started if you don't have any money. Now, I'm going to show you some upgrades and options that are going to be beneficial to you if you've got money. But my biggest thing is start that stream of income without tying up your income. There's a lot of ways to start streams of income without tying up existing income. Now, if you got it like that, oh, I got some ideas for you. We can implement some business plans and we can really multiply your money. But when you got nothing, multiplying anything times zero is still zero. So we got to get you out of zero. We got to get you out of the negative and get you into the positive. So we got something to work with in building your business. So I want you to just understand that that's my philosophy as a financial planner and educator before we get into the content. Fair enough? All right. I'm excited, y'all. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. In fact, one of my favorite shirts that I wear, I need to get a new one because it's wearing out. It says, talk to me. Please talk to me about podcasting. All right. And so, as someone who helps people win with money, one of the biggest things I do is help people find new ways to make more money. So, we're going to talk about podcasting as a way to make more money. Now, this is our agenda. My 7 things you absolutely need for a profitable podcast. All right. You need to have your focus on point. You got to have the right gear or some good enough gear. You got to make sure you can edit that thing. Unless you are a better speaker than I am, you need to be able to edit that thing. Then you need some distribution methods. That's how you get it out to everybody. You need some marketing to find guests and to get your podcast into people's ears. And then you want to learn how to profit from the podcast and why most podcasts don't profit. And finally, how to last, which is a huge component of profit. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about focusing your podcast. What are you going to focus on? Hey, so glad you're on today. All right, what do you want to focus on your podcast? Now, you notice that first question there. I know that's not nice to ask. I know I'm not being super nice with you today, but I feel like the best solution is to be very direct about it. For a lot of people who want to start a podcast, they don't actually need to start a podcast. They don't actually need to start a podcast because the reason they want to start a podcast is to have spread brand awareness, to gain exposure to other people's audiences, to really get their foothold into new circles and open up new doors. Now, a podcast can do some of that. And once you have a hit podcast, it absolutely does all of that. But if your main goal with a podcast is to spread your brand quickly and effectively, then I would submit to you today that the best way to do that goal is not to start your own podcast, but to be a guest on other people's podcasts. And the things that I share with you in our session today will actually help you to do that as well. Okay, so the first thing is to decide what it is that you want to do and make sure that podcasting is going to help you accomplish that goal. You know, I think I can just hang a little second on goals. We're going to get to that mixtape question in just a little bit, but I want to hang on this thing about goals. You know, there's a lot of times when people will come to me for financial coaching and I'll be like, what is it you want to accomplish? Almost universally, I get one of 2 answers. The first answer is I want to be financially independent yesterday or something to that effect. I want to be financially independent. The next answer I get, most common answer I get is, well, I don't know. I don't know. And one of the things that Bob Proctor talks a lot about is the different types of goals. A type goal is stuff you already know how to do. So I might say my goal is to make sure I'm never the last mom in the line at the pickup because I don't want to be that parent. That's something I already know how to do. It's called be in line before the last car, right? A B type goal is something you think you know how to do. And I kind of suffer from a problem of, I think I could do a lot more than I actually can. In my maturity, in my next decade, I'm learning that I can't do everything, or I can't do it as effectively as paying somebody else to do it. I get that now. Boy, oh boy. In my 20s, man, I thought I was superwoman. And so B-type goal is something I think I could do. You know what I think I could do? I picked up a volunteer form for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I ain't never done that before. I don't know if that's something that's going to work with me. I don't know if it's going to work for my personality, and I don't know if it's going to work for my family time and my business time. But I do know I'm spending this next year focused on the kids. And so I said, I'm going to pick up the form and I'm going to see if I might could do it. That's a B-type goal. I think I can do it. Oh, and a lot of us, if I could just, because again, we're talking about podcasts, but I'm talking about these goals. See, this is a mindset thing that will help us be successful, whether it's a podcast or anything else. See, a lot of us play it safe with A-type goals and B-type goals. We play it safe with things we already know how to do because we know we can't fail. And we play it safe with things we think we can do because we don't think we're going to fail. But those goals that we already kind of know how to do, or we already have the building blocks for, those goals do not stretch us and those goals do not grow us. So while those goals may be important for accomplishing certain things, those goals rarely lead to 7-figure business building. Why? Because we're still the same us after we accomplish those goals. So what kind of goals do we need? We need that big C-type goal. That C-type goal is the dream. It's that thing that you want off in the distance, that you want, that 5 years from now, you want your hard work to pay off. That's the lifestyle that you want to have when you have attained the things that you desire. And it doesn't have to take 5 years. It could take 6 months. It could take 3 months. It really depends on you. But that's a C-type goal. Okay, so when it comes to understanding what we want, whether we're talking about podcast or not, it's important to understand, what am I trying to accomplish? Because if I'm trying to accomplish exposure, then maybe I don't want to start a podcast to get that goal. Maybe I want to build a relationship with my existing clients. A podcast is excellent for that. And it's important to understand, what is it we no kidding want. And if you're going to start a podcast, you got to know what you want to do with that podcast, because that informs which way you take. That informs how long of a podcast you create. That informs how detailed you get, what kind of guests you bring on. It informs what kind of how long the podcast is, what distribution channels that you use. And when you sit down with me for your podcast session, we actually walk through all of that, so that by the time you're done, you got a clear plan of what you are going to do to start your podcast. So the next is, so with that established, understanding what the focus is, what it is, if we even need a podcast, then I'm going to recommend that your podcast should be about something that people will pay you for. Now, I know that sounds kind of like a no-brainer, right? But there's this Japanese concept called Ikigai. And I actually used to teach this concept. I even had a really pretty flower graphic of overlapping circles that I used from somebody's website, but I didn't know it was an actual business concept. I just thought it was a pretty graphic, and I changed all the little boxes to be what I was teaching, right? Oh, I was so embarrassed when I taught it to somebody who was like an expert in that field, and I was like, "Ooh." So I'm not going to show you that graphic today. But really, the concept of Ikigai is, it's the overlap of what you're good at, okay? What the world needs, what they're willing to pay for, and what's not easily available. Okay? So there's a million financial planners out there. If I want to succeed as a financial planner, I've got to have something that makes me unique in the workplace, in the marketplace, and the same for you and your podcast. Now, in this case, most people aren't paying you for your time with the podcast until you get big enough for sponsors and advertising. But you have to have something unique enough, because in all of the world that's competing for our attention, your podcast got to compete with TikTok, with YouTube, with Facebook videos, with the people on that Alabama dock hitting each other with the folding chair. Like your podcast got to compete against all of that. So you have to choose something that you're good at, okay? And so I do want to answer a quick question here. Somebody asked a question about making money from their mixtape. A podcast is not necessarily a mixtape, but you can use a mixtape for your podcast. You can distribute it on SoundCloud, where everybody else is distributing their mixtapes, and you can create a following. So that's really a neat avenue for you. And if you look at the other things that I'm going to show you today, you'll actually be able to distribute all over the world and create a following, especially in niche markets. Okay. So I'm excited about this today, y'all, because this is an avenue. Look, this is such an avenue for us. Many of us, we're in these communities that people don't necessarily trust our businesses. Okay. They don't trust our businesses. They don't trust what we're doing. They don't know who we are. They're not buying from us. But with podcast distribution, you have access to send your content out all over the world. Y'all, I have a huge following in India. They listen to me on Ghana, and I didn't even know about that channel. They found me through my distributor, and they said, "Hey, we're adding you to the channel." I'm even on the board of a youth empowerment agency in India, and I have never stepped foot in that country. But my content has reached overseas. And so the reason I'm sharing that with you is not to impress you at all. It's to impress upon you that maybe some areas that we live in are not friendly to you and your personality or your background or what have you, but there's a whole world out there. And you don't need 2 billion followers to make a living. You don't need 2 billion followers to have a good house paid for and a nice life for you and your children. You really, what's that? I would forget who did it. Look up 1,000 true fans. All you really need to make a living is 1,000 true fans. Y'all, it's an excellent essay. Okay. So you want to find what your podcast should be about based on the exclusivity of what you can bring to the table. Okay. Now, for those of you like me who love to talk and love to write, all right, I'm a prolific writer. I got 13 books. I got 14 and 15 in the works. And part of why I have 14 and 15 in the works is because I don't like the number 13. I'm not superstitious. I just don't like it. All right. But one of the things I'm going to recommend you don't fall into the trap I had. Okay. Don't make your podcast just about what you want to talk about. Okay. Don't make your podcast about what you just want to talk about. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back, because I did this with my first couple of books, and I did this with a lot of my first podcast episodes. And some of the episodes were okay because they had good analysis behind them, but some of them, man, they flopped. And the reason they flopped is because I was simply, when we started building wealth together, 2019. So we started, it must have been in 2018, I think. So it's 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. It's around that time. I know it was by 2019 FinCon. Okay. But whatever we started, it's at least 4 years. I just thought, I'm going to get online. I'm just going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Now that works in my walking videos. If you follow me on Facebook, okay, if you follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/DrJJ Conway. If you follow me on Facebook, when I go for walks, and I'm in a safe enough place that I can walk. With a lot of my travel, I'm not. When I go for walks, that's stream of consciousness. I put that thing on and I talk, and it's whatever comes to my mind. And we extract from it and create scripts from it. And the stuff that really resonates with people, that becomes a script, y'all. That becomes a script for later. That's stream of consciousness programming. I don't care if you watch it or don't, because the reason I'm doing it isn't to get people. It's because I don't like walking. I don't like getting out there and walking in the park. I don't like getting out of my bed. I don't like putting on the clothes. I don't like getting out there with my big old self. Look, I look cute from this angle, right? But I got all this belly and hips going on that you don't see on the podcast. And I just don't like it. And I know intellectually that rolling over in the bed is not going to help me take care of the fact that I don't like how I look below the camera. But in real life, I just don't want to be out there. And so I started doing those walking videos just because I, no kidding, needed the motivation to get out there. And instead of paying attention to the hot Texas heat, we've been having them 110-degree days. And instead of paying attention to how everybody else is so cute and trim on that trail, and I'm wobbling along, and instead of paying attention to how my feet hurt and my back hurt and my neck hurt, I'm making a video and it helps me get through 3 or 4 miles of a walk. But you aren't starting a podcast just to go have some fun time, stream of consciousness. You're probably starting a podcast because you want to make extra money, because you want to create another stream of income that doesn't require your active involvement. Now, I know that sounds like a contradiction because I'm saying you're going to work a podcast and then I'm saying doesn't require active involvement. I'm going to talk about that at the end, about how a podcast can take on a life of its own and you don't even have to really do work with it to make money from it. Okay. That's at the end. All right. So you want to talk about what people want to hear about. Okay. I use my walking videos as a way to test the market. And when I see 20 people jump off, I know I done said something that was not what should be said if I want to keep an audience. That doesn't mean I'm not going to say it, y'all, because those of you who know me, I'm going to say what needs to be said, whether you like it or not, right? But generally speaking, I want to have a nice collegial, tolerant atmosphere. I want people to come and share their opinions and allow me to share mine. That's all I ask. It's we all respect each other, right? But when I say something and I see 20 people jump off, I go back and look at it. And let me tell you what, if that content does make it to the podcast, we make sure that JJ fixes that up a little bit and wraps it in a more tolerable package. Okay. And so like these broadcasts on Thursday nights, they become part of the podcast. Well, usually when I deliver content on this Thursday night, show, whatever we call it, live stream, whenever, it's not the first time I'm delivering it to you. It's not the first time I'm talking about it. I've already done tested the market here and there. All right. And it may still flop, y'all. It may still flop. I'm still learning. Look, I'm still learning how to make my words match the intent. Does anybody else have that problem today? Please tell me I am not alone. Sometimes I mean the best and my words come out and it's like, I see you look on your face. That's not what I meant to say. The way you took it wasn't the way I meant it, because I mean everything in love. All right. All right. So, but just be very careful about that. When you start your podcast, you want to make sure that what you're talking about is something people want to listen. And if you're like me, my voice tends to get real screechy and real high, and I get all excited, and nobody wants to hear that. Okay. So I have to work on lowering my voice. And even though, and you'll hear it when I'm in a class like this. I'll get all excited, and then you'll hear me pause and drop myself back down. Okay. So I can have a nice professional voice so that you want to hear it. Is this helping you today? If this is helping you, I want you to put a yes, put a B1, put a this is helping, put something, put a smiley face, put a heart, put a like, put something so I know this is helping you today. All right. So you want to make sure you do that when you're choosing what your podcast is going to talk about. And the other thing I want to mention the last thing I want to mention on that is it's okay to change. Okay. In fact, my podcast is going to go through a branding change here in early next year. We're going to shift our focus, and I'm going between two foci. Oh, I should know that. I did math for a living. I was a scientist in the Air Force, y'all. I should know that. I should know how to say that. But yeah, it's a little while back. But whatever it is that I'm going to focus on, sometimes it changes. You just stick with something for a couple of years, and then your life changes, your expertise changes, you adapt, you find a more clear niche for what you're doing. Okay, so there's some changes underfoot, and that's okay. But pick something now that the world needs from you, that the world can't get very well through other people, or if they can get it through other people, that the way you deliver it and the way you are with people is unique to you and unique to enough people, okay? Then you want to make sure it's something that you can get paid for. You may not necessarily get paid right away, but if it's something you can get paid for, you leverage that into coaching, speaking, and other opportunities, okay? So then you're multitasking with this podcast, and then you make it something that people really need. Something people need. So make sure I get all four of those. Something people need, something they're willing to pay for, something they can't get anywhere else. Oh man, what was the fourth one? That's what happened. Oh, something you're good at. No, and you can laugh. Some of you are gonna laugh at me, but you know what? We do a lot of things that we're not good at. Like, I love youth ministry, and I am better with youth now than I was back when I was a youth director. I flopped as a youth director. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. My very first youth director position I had, oh man, it was a hot mess. And I just remembered how somebody came alongside me when I was a youth, and my mom didn't have money for us to be a member of the youth center, but the guy gave us a job so that we would have something to do, and we would be in there all day playing pool or ping pong or whatever it was, and he was really keeping us out of trouble, right? So for me, I always wanted to be that person. I had these naive, idealistic things that I was going to set up my youth department, and I was going to teach them how to do some advanced things that the schools kind of overlook, because some of us just kind of get passed along and we don't know how to read or write. They just keep passing us along so they don't have to do the paperwork. Like, I had it all figured out, y'all. I was going to be amazing, and I wasn't. You know why I wasn't? Because I was not good at dealing with those parents. So you got to pick something you're good at. All right. All right. Yes. Be what? I love it. Yeah. Okay. So once you figure out what you want to do for your podcast, then it's time to figure out how to record. And this is one that a lot of people are going to get surprised at, because we all think about, oh, I need to go get the podcaster kit. I need the fancy microphone, and I need to look all the looks and feel all the feels and sound all the sounds. And as long as you can get a decent sound, you may not even need to buy equipment. I'm going to show you some equipment here in a second, but I'm going to tell you what I know kid and use in my practice. And I want you to remember there's a phrase I put down at the bottom. Okay, if you've ever been in any, I used to teach this in the military. I didn't come up with this, but I used to teach this in the military, is the concept of Norway. Okay, no one right way. That means there's all different kinds of ways to do something, and you got to pick the best one that works for you with your budget, your time constraints, your availability, and what have you. Okay, so I'm going to give you some options on the next couple of slides, but remember, it's all about what will help you get the job done. If you've got the most fancy schmancy setup, but you never can get it turned on and hooked up and everything configured and calibrated, and it's just too cumbersome to work with, or you can't take advantage of interview, like you're the person that keeps running into these amazing people and you can't interview them because all your setups at home. I don't want you to get bogged down in all that. A lot of us have really good phones with really good recorders. Okay. And I say that I am still looking for a good recorder on the iPhone. So if you have a really good recorder, I have been through like 4 different apps since I switched from Android to iPhone. So if you got a really good recorder, I want you to help the sister out and drop the name of it in the chat. Okay. And if somebody's listening to this, don't just assume that whatever's dropped in the chat is going to work for you. Research it and do your due diligence just like I will. But on my Android, fantastic recorder I had was called HiQ. If I'd have thought about it, I would have added it to my slide, but I didn't. Okay. Fantastic recorder is called HiQ. When I'm at my home studio, or when I'm in my traveling and I have access to my computer, I use a different software that I'm going to show you today, and that is a free one. The HiQ that I use was a $5 lifetime upgrade to get rid of the ads and limits and things like that. Well worth the money, because I've been using that thing for 4 or 5 years. Now, if I could just find the same thing on iPhone, I'd be a happy camper. All right. I can't find my let me put the slide back up. I can't find my my iPhone. I mean my recording app, and I can't find my player app on the iPhone. So I'm a little bit sad about that. I'm loving the phone. I'm loving the phone, but man, I just wish I could get my stuff that I'm used to. Okay, now I know some of you are like, did she seriously just put up a Walmart checkout counter picture? Yes, I did. I'm going to show you the mic that I tend to use. Oh, I left it in the other room. Oh well, it's charging because I'm gonna be doing a traveling broadcast, so all my broadcast stuff is out there ready to travel. Sorry about that, y'all. I'll show you an Amazon picture of it though. But when I'm traveling and I'm not bringing the mic with me, when I'm trying to travel really light, so everything's a carry on and stuff, I no kidding use these Premier earbuds with mic from Walmart. And the first time I bought them, I was just looking for some cheap earbuds to replace something a couple years ago, and it was like $12 from Walmart, and they had little rhinestones. If you go back in an old Facebook post, you'll see me posting about, wow, this was such a surprise. They had little rhinestones in the edges there. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving. And so I said, well, these look kind of rinky dink, but I'm gonna keep them. Well, I'm so glad I did, because they right now they sell for $5.88 Walmart checkout. I took this picture just the other day. And yes, I bought a bunch of these because for me, they're very good earbuds for things that you can plug in. So my computer you can plug in, my old cell phone that still has all the old apps on it that I love, I can plug in. And it's not perfect. It's not as good as my mic that I'm going to show you at the end, but it makes a very good recording that you can edit and then you can put into your podcast. Like, you would be surprised at some of the cheapest things you can find. Now, look, some of the other cheaper mics out there, let me tell you, they introduce a lot of noise and other stuff. So you're going to have to see what works with your computer, with your cell phone, with what you have. See what works, okay? Another thing that has worked very well for me, now this is one has worked well with the iPhone. Wait, before I show it to you, it hasn't worked very well with my old phone because my old phone doesn't do Bluetooth recording. So my iPhone allows for Bluetooth recording. I just haven't found a good recording app, but when I'm on Zoom or StreamYard from my new iPhone, and they aren't paying me, this is not an affiliation. I'm not trying to tell you go to get iPhone because I'm still frustrated with the thing. But one thing it does do better than the Android that I had, my Motorola, which I love Motorola's, y'all, and they don't pay me either. But they're just 30. So if you're a mom with kids and they're always dropping your stuff, that Motorola takes a licking and keeps on ticking. The one thing that I like is on Zoom and other things, I can be in a busy airport with these earbuds that I'm about to show you, and very few people can tell that I'm out in the airport. The noise cancellation feature is wonderful on these if you have a device that does Bluetooth recording. Unfortunately, for my old phone, that doesn't work, but it does work with the iPhone. So let me go ahead and put that back up. And these are actually also the ones I use if I'm traveling and I need to listen to something while I'm sleeping, or if I have a roommate that is snoring. This is what I use. And you can go, if you want to see this exact pair, you can go to this Amazon link that I've put here. Now, look, y'all, I am an Amazon affiliate, which means if you go to Amazon through one of my links and you buy something, then if you go to Amazon and buy something through one of my links, they might give me a couple of cents. All right. It helps keep my website up, helps keep my classes for free. It's not really that much money, but a little bit adds up. You get 100 people all go in there and they all buy something, and it's worth like 25 cents. Well, that's $50, and $50 is enough to keep my site up for another month. So I appreciate everybody that uses my Amazon links, but I'm by law now, Amazon's cracking down, and I got to tell you, they're Amazon links. All right, so these are the ones that I use. These are the earbuds that I use with the iPhone when I'm recording on Zoom. And Zoom is another way to record. If you don't have any way to record, everybody can get a free 40-minute account on Zoom. And most startup podcasts, you don't want to be much longer than 40 minutes anyway. Now, Zoom is not really great for making video recordings that you can use, but you can use Zoom on your phone with those with those earbuds or with the other earbuds, and excellent recording. Okay, excellent recording that you can then edit into a podcast. Let me see if I've got the iRig mic here. Nope, I sure don't. Boy, I put all the mics out there. Even my Rhodes mic is out there. Okay, well, I'll have to show that to y'all another time because I see we're already at 35 minutes and I got more to show you. We'll come back and talk about that. But no, I'll talk about it now because I might forget. Oh, y'all can't see that. Okay, here you go. Here you go. Okay. So I highlighted this because when I first clicked it, it said $99. And then when I clicked on the colors, because I wanted to see what the colors were, they've got this mint green one. I wanted to see what that looked like. The price is really, oh, you can't see that either. The price is really 160 something. It's 169. But this says save with use like new. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not trying to save with use like new. They might have, there's a reason they returned it. Now, if that's all I can do, that's the best I can do. That's what I'll do. But you can find it cheaper at you can find those cheaper at Best Buy. I think I got mine at Sam's Club, honestly. And I think they were only maybe about 70 bucks. And that was back when online they were like 200. Okay. So this one here that I'm showing you here, this is the ATR 2100 mic. And this is the mic that I use. So if you listen to Building Wealth Together podcast, you're going to notice an area where it's, when I started off, it was okay quality. Then we got a middle zone where it was great quality. And then the last I'd say year hasn't been as great quality as back then because that mic does not work with my new computer. My new, very sleek, I call it the chocolate drop. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful computer. Oh my goodness. But you know what? I'm sacrificing a lot of functionality for this beautiful computer. And so I don't use that with the computer anymore. But this one is the one that actually really helped. Let me go put the back. Really helped improve the quality. I mean, just crystal clear quality. Now, I know this is an older mic and they have newer ones. I've never tried the newer ones. So I will soon. But I want to share with you what I know works. Now, there's something in this picture that you see there, that little black fluffy thing that goes on top of the microphone. That is called a pop filter. Sometimes they call it a pop screen, okay, or a windscreen. What that basically does is whenever you use like the word P or T or S, any of those kinds of things, those particular sounds really amplify in your recording. And so those little pop filters or pop screens, they really help reduce that. Now, they take different forms. Now, that one I thought I had here. Nope, and I sure don't. You know what? Let me just go on to Amazon real quick because I feel bad now. I feel bad that I keep saying, "Oh, I'm going to show you this," and then I don't have it. Let's go. Let me see if I can share that. Okay, stop the share and present. Let me go to window. All right, share screen. I'm going to show you some different things. Okay, you don't need this though. You don't really need this. It's better for your editing, but this is not something you need. Okay. Okay, not that one. I'm looking at buying that one. I'm looking at getting one of these because I'm looking for something I can travel and take with me for travel. Okay. So, but like this thing here, see that round thing? That's the pop screen that I used when I started out. And then when I started doing a lot of podcasting on the road, I just used the little black pop-on cover. Let me show you the different kinds of these. They have different kinds. Pop filter. Okay, see, they have different kinds of pop filters. Some of them, a lot of them are these kinds of this. It's basically like a stocking. So look. Oh, can you see that? Okay, good. So look, you know what you know that black pop filter is? It's basically like a stocking around a ring. So you don't have money for a pop filter? Well, look, I know some of y'all, you live a luxurious lifestyle. You don't want to do any of this, but some of y'all, you hurting for cash. And you're like, I really want to do this thing, but I don't want to waste money and I don't want to go into debt for this thing. You know, get you an embroidery ring and stretch an old stocking over it, and boom, you got you a pop filter. Okay. It won't look good. Don't put that in your Facebook. Don't, you know how everybody likes to take pictures with their, and then when you can do better, then do better. All right, let's see. Why is it not going? There it goes. All right, so that's one kind. There's a metal kind. Here's a metal kind. Okay, it's a metal mesh kind that goes around your mic. You saw this in the other picture. You saw the pipe kind that pops over the microphones. There's another one that I have for my Rhodes mics. Let me see if I can find it. I don't see it here, but you can see these different ones. For my Rhodes mic, let's try a furry windscreen. It's like this. It's like this little gray one, but the Rhodes mics are so my Rhodes mic is so small that it's like that. Okay. So those are some pop screens. Again, not required, but if there's something that you like, if you are very animated, how many of y'all have watched the recording version of Hamilton? Anybody recognize the shirt? Huh? How many of y'all have watched the recording version of Hamilton? You know that guy who plays the king? He's a spitting singer. Spit, 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 spit all over the place, right? If you spit a lot and you got a few issues like that, well, or me, I'm a forceful, a lot of breathy speaker. So if you're like that, it might help. But you don't have to spend a whole lot of money, okay? That's what I'm trying to say, because I really want you to be able to do this. I really want you to be able to do this for under $20 or less. All right, let's go back to the slides. There we go. All right, so that covers mics. That covers mics, okay? And so you need something to record with, and you need something to record on. You're going to record on a mic. You're either going to use a computer or you're going to use a cell phone, okay? Once you get the recording, you might want to edit it. Now, sometimes you don't need to edit it. If you are a one-take wonder and you can just get through that thing and just get it done, then that's great. And a lot of times it's actually better not to be perfect, right? So if you're perfect, a lot of times it's harder to sell because people don't always want to buy from perfect people. They want to buy from likable experts. They want to buy from people who are like them, who've just achieved more, right? And so since none of us are perfect, sometimes we feel like the perfect is so fake. We may not want to buy from them. So it's okay to have a few little mistakes. Like that's something they had to train out of me because I started off in Toastmasters. You don't and ah in Toastmasters. But when you want to build connection with an audience and you want to sell, then a lot of times it's good to have a few imperfections. You may not have to introduce ums and ahs if you're not big on speaking that way, but you do want to have allow just a few little imperfections in here and there so people know you're real and they can trust you. Okay. And so if you have just a few little things, you may not need to edit. You can always go on your phone and trim, or if you're on a computer, you can open up an audio app and trim. I'm going to show you my very favorite editing app. And guess what, y'all? Guess what, y'all? It's absolutely free. And it's not just free, and it's something that nobody ever really likes. It's free, and it's what industry standard people use. Almost everybody I know who uses a podcast, who does a podcast that edits it, almost everybody I know in profitable circles, they use this software or their staff does. All right. So let me show you this software. It's called Audacity. And I'm going to show you a quick screenshot of it so you know what it looks like when you go to download it, okay? That's the icon that's on your computer. It's called Audacity. And I promise this looks so hard. let me put me on here, okay? I promise you this looks so hard, but when I show you in our hands-on session how easy this is, it's going to blow your mind. You're going to think that you are absolutely a podcast expert, a guru. Like you're going to be like, oh, I can show people and I can charge people to not only show them how to do their own podcast, but I can charge them to make their podcast for them. And I'm telling you, once you get used to doing this, it's so easy. And so what you see here is I actually have a track that is the main track for the thing. And then I had another track that was imported in that's for the intro. And you can grab that top where the title is and you can slide it forward or slide it back. You can overlap music over your background and add sound effects. I mean, it looks like complicated gobbledygook, but I promise you, you sit down with me in that podcast workshop and I will show you how easy this is. And it is easy peasy. And you can edit your podcasts. Very easy with this free software. All right. So now you've got the podcast recorded, you got the podcast edited. You do want to maybe make some cover art. Most distribution channels are going to want that, but you got to get it out. Now, you could get it out with a lot of different ways. You can put it on your Facebook, you can put it on your YouTube, you can put it on SoundCloud, you can put it on Mixcloud. There's a whole bunch of different places you could put it. Personally, I like to use a distribution channel. Now, there are some free distribution channels, okay? There are some free distribution channels. I don't recommend the free distribution channels because all I've ever heard is a lot of complaints from them. Now, the only one I haven't really heard much from or haven't really tried. Ooh, why's my camera all being all out of sync here? I don't know why, but y'all, it'll come back. The only one that I have not personally really tried is YouTube has launched a new podcast feature. And I already distribute to YouTube through my distributor, so I haven't messed around with that yet. Okay, so that I've heard from other podcasters, that one's pretty good. But some of these other ones that I am not naming, some of these free things, they have been fraught with a lot of problems. So I don't recommend them. And that's why I didn't say how to start your podcast for free, even though most of what I'm telling you up till now, you could do for free with most of what you have if you didn't have the money to go buy a new mic or go buy a new this or go buy a new software. Okay. You get in your car, in your garage, or someplace that's quiet, close the door and go to town. And I didn't add this to the training, but let me just throw this out there. When you're recording a podcast, if you don't have a quiet home environment, you would be shocked. If I can use my office, I will. I am really not happy with the fact that I am so blurry right now. I hope you can hear me okay, because if you're watching the video, I am so blurry. Sorry about that. I don't know why. It's a Brio camera, y'all. It's one of the best. But when I can't get into my studio to record, because I do share my studio with my 7-year-old. So when I can't get into my studio to record, or when the whole family's asleep and I don't want to wake them up because I am kind of loud and animated, I, no kidding, go in the car and I record podcasts. And I'll get in there at 5 in the morning and I'll get 2 or 3 podcasts recorded before everybody wakes up. Okay. And so you got to do what you got to do. If you can't find a quiet place like that and you can't afford the noise canceling earbuds, then there are other quiet places you can find that allow you. A lot of co-working spaces and even some hotels still have booths. I actually went to a hotel the other day that still had it was the airport, had phone booths, like pay phone booths, and they got you free 5-minute phone calls to anywhere. I was like, wow, that's harkening back to when I was a kid and there were no cell phones, right? And so, but if you can't find a quiet place, do the best you can with what you've got. Okay. All right. So let's go back to distribute. Ooh, I'm missing a slide. Hold on, y'all. Let me go back to this. Because I don't know why I'm blurry. I do not like that I'm blurry right now. Did I not show y'all free conference call? Oh, where'd that slide go? You know what? I overwrote that slide with something else. Okay, I'm going to show you something else. Let me stop that screen. This is going to be silly, y'all. I know this is going to be so silly. You're going to be like, what? Are you kidding me? When I first started interviewing, so when I first started recording, I did it on my computer. But when I first started interviewing, I didn't have anything like Zencastr. I didn't have anything like some of the other things that people have used to record their interviews. I certainly didn't have Zoom, didn't even know of Zoom, hadn't heard of Zoom. I don't even know if Zoom was even out yet, But what I did have, something that I had used for my real estate days, is I had something called free conference call. I'm going to show you this. I literally had people dial in to free conference call. Okay. Free conference call. And they were able to be on their line dialing in, and I was able to be on my line dialing in. And we, no kidding, would record podcasts by having people dial in to free conference call. Now, today you can use Zoom. Zoom's got great audio recording. if you've got a good mic and stuff. But if you can't get access to Zoom, or if you're in a place where the internet is crummy, you could check out freeconferencecall.com. All right, let me put my slides back on, and we'll talk a little bit about distribution channels. So the distribution channel that I actually recommend is the one that I use. Now, I don't use the basic program. I use a higher up program, but you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. And even if you do, the one I use is only $20 a month. But for $5 a month, you can have 3 hours of podcasting uploads every month. So if you did a 30-minute session, if you did a 30-minute podcast every week, you're not going to use up 3 hours a month. So you could do the 5-minute thing. I mean, the $5 a month plan. And what this distribution channel does, it sends it to everybody and their brother. Now, it does take a minute or two to set up all those distribution channels. But every time I release a podcast, it goes all over the world. It goes to Spotify. It goes to iTunes. It goes to the podcast. No, not iTunes. Yeah, it goes to iTunes. It goes to Apple Podcasts. It goes to Google Podcasts. It goes to Amazon. It goes to everywhere. It goes to SoundCloud. It goes to all these different places. And you can set up an RSS feed so people who subscribe to your people who subscribe who don't use one of those platforms for their podcast, they still get it. I mean, how amazing is that? It goes to Facebook, it goes to Twitter, it goes to Instagram. Does it go to Instagram? I think it goes to Instagram. I know it goes to Facebook and Twitter. I can't even remember, y'all. The page, it's like 2 pages of check. 2 pages worth of stuff that it spams out. Not spam, shouldn't use the word spam. That it sends out my podcast to. So for me, for $5 a month to get my podcast out all over the world, well, I'm going to do that all day long. All right. So now if you're interested in this, let me know, because I don't have an affiliate link yet, but I am getting an affiliate link. I've applied for an affiliate link for this. I should have that in a couple of days, and it'll give you a month free for whatever plan you choose. Now, again, I use the $20 plan. That $20 a month plan gives you 10 hours a month. Once it's uploaded, it's good. So every month you get another 3 hours of content you can upload if you're on the $5 plan, another $10 of content you can upload if you're on the $20 plan, and it's there forever. Okay. And so for me, they're very helpful people. They have podcast training and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to distribute, this is the one I recommend. Now, Remember, I started off with this training with the concept of Norway. There's no one right way. This is what works for me. I like things that are easy, that I don't have to think about. I don't have to do a whole lot of machinations. But look, when I was $845,000 in debt, you better believe I wasn't going to pay $5 a month. I barely had $20 a month for food for me and a child. So I remember those days, okay? And I'm not gonna throw no shade. I'm not gonna be petty with you. But when you can do better, do better. And with this case, the one thing I recommend you spend some money on, other than making sure you have a good way to record for some decent sound quality, is a distribution channel. Because that's how you're gonna get it out. That's how you're gonna get your message out to the world. All right. Now you could do it manually. You can join all the Facebook groups, and you can join all of the, you can tag people on all the different things, and you can join each distribution channel individually, and you can do that work. Okay. But for $5 a month, I'm going to recommend that you go to Libsyn. All right. So now you got the podcast. You've got it recorded, you've edited it, you've distributed it. But just because you distributed it doesn't. Now, wait. I want to say this carefully. Distributing your podcast consistently all over the world is going to make it more likely that people listen in the kind of capacity that's going to help it going. But when you're just getting started, it's always good to have some organic marketing. Not only marketing to get people to actually listen to your podcast, but organic marketing for guests. I'm telling you, getting guests on your podcast is one of the best things you can do to spread your podcast like wildfire. And they don't have to be on there the whole time, but it does help. So when I started my podcast, I told y'all I messed up, right? I told y'all I was going to say in my podcast all the things I wanted to say. And then I discovered some people liked what I had to say when I did good research, but other people didn't like all my ranting and raving. Now, some people showed up for that, right? And I'm glad that they're still with me because I do rant and rave from time to time. But you have to understand your market. I was looking for a market that has good big money to pay me for my big money classes. Okay. I wasn't trying to do a podcast to just everybody and their brother who just likes to rant and rave and live in the lower levels of character because they're living in the scarcity. I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to reach people who are living in abundance, and people living in abundance have more money, but people who are living in abundance don't want to listen to but so much rant and rave. Okay. But a little bit, just a little bit. Okay. So marketing is important because you want to get your word out to people. You want to spread the word that you have a podcast. You can even make little cards for your podcast. You can even make little cards. Let me see if I've got one here. I had one. Oh yeah, here we go. You can make little cards for your podcast. When I started my podcast had a lot of John Maxwell on it. So I had a John Maxwell, and I had information on how they could get to the podcast and all my social channels on the back, right? Now you don't have to do that. You don't have to go to Vistaprint to do that. You get you some. Never mind. I'm not trying to get anybody fired, but y'all have to look up that comedian who talks about the print. That's why a lot of people have a job. I ain't telling you to get yourself fired, but there's a lot of creative ways to get stuff done. And there's a lot of creative ways to get people to sponsor your podcast. Okay. I'm just going to stop now because I'm about to get myself in trouble. Just so I can say the Air Force has never printed. When I was in the Air Force, I never printed any of my business cards at the Air Force. Okay. But you can buy the little card stock. You can make your own. You can get somebody at a printing shop to barter with you so they can sponsor your podcast, a couple episodes, and print your stuff for you. All right. There's always a way. There's always a way. And if you haven't found a way yet, then that means you haven't found it, but that doesn't mean there's not a way. All right. Okay. All right. So the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find some podcast guests. And at first it's kind of difficult because we feel like all the big names, they may not want to be on our podcast if we don't have big status. We don't have 100,000 followers, listeners, or 100 downloads. Like a lot of times I'll help people with a new podcast. But if somebody wants me to do like substantive content, then I will be like, okay, well, let me know when you've got 100 episodes, because I want to know that I'm going to pour my time into you and to this interview, and I'm going to do the research behind the interview, and I'm going to want to know that you're going to be around for a while to make it worth my time. If you're not paying me. Now, if you're paying me, hey, if you're paying me, I'll be there day one, baby. I'll be there day one if you're paying me. But if you're not paying me, I got to manage my time and my resource. And my time is my largest resource. So I want to make sure your podcast is going to be around. Now, if you just want to chit chat and talk, well, that doesn't take me any preparation. So I don't, you could be on episode 2 or 3 and we'll be there, right? But you want to make sure that you find guests. So there are websites out there. Oh, I'm looking at my time. There are websites out there. There are Facebook groups out there. And there are plenty of groups and websites that you can go to find podcast leads. In fact, I have so many people that want to be on Building Wealth Together. I have a backlog of interviews. As many of you know, we did the Sherry's Berries versus Sherry's Berries episode, and we had a string of family losses and funerals and things like that. And then I got rear-ended in March. And so we are building. If you go to Building Wealth Together right now, that's the last episode that's published, was back in February, because I had that car accident that took me out for 6 weeks. And then we rolled right into end of school year, the Juneteenth Legacy Conference. Dr. Boyce Watkins was my keynote speaker. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. My church General Assembly, and then boom, boom, boom. So I have a ton of episodes that have been recorded, but they hadn't been released. And so for me, I have a ton of guests that want to get on the show, but I'm not putting new guests on the show until after I clear the backlog of all the other people that I interviewed earlier this year before the car accident and haven't released their episodes yet, right? But I'm going to give you one today, okay? Because I don't have time to go into all of them. I really need to wrap this up. I'm going to give you one today. But when you sit down with me for your podcast research, okay, when you sit down for your hands-on workshop, when you book on my calendar, the link is down there at the bottom, calendly.com, JJ Conway, podcast workshop. When you book your workshop with me, we take 2 hours of sitting down, working on your podcast ideas. We record an initial episode. I show you how to edit it. I edit it for you, and then you edit it and I watch, and we work on that together. And then we look at how to do your cover art, and then I show you where to find other guests. And when you're done with that workshop, ooh, yeah, we have a whole first episode all done for you. Now, you can consider it a training episode and never air it, or you can pop it into your social media and say, hey, check out this interview with JJ Conway. I'm thinking about starting a podcast. Who wants to be on it? What do y'all think about that? Get your feedback, test the market. So that's something you can do. So the first one I'm going to give you is, or the one that I'm going to give you today is called Find a Guest, Be a Guest. Now, I have heard of a lot of different Find a Guest, Be a Guest groups, but there's one on Facebook. In fact, I'm going to show it to you, that does not charge you. Somebody invited me. I was like, you lying to me. Somebody was like, you need to be in our group, our Find a Guest, Be a Guest group. And they wanted me to pay like $1,000 to be in their group. And I'm like, between all the sources that I have that I share with you in the workshop, there's no way I'm going to pay $1,000 to be in your group. I got this group. And I've got other groups that I'm on, other websites that I'm in. Okay, let me, I've got the group pulled up. I want to make sure you see this. Okay, that means I got to stop this. I really need to get an extra screen and extra, so that I can just have all these things, bam, bam, bam. I don't like wasting time like this, but this is worth it. This is worth the wait, y'all, because you want to know where you can go for free. It's called Podcast Guest Collaboration Community. Be a guest, find a guest. And guess what? It's free. Okay. And you go in here and people are talking about, I'm looking for a guest, and people are talking about, I'm trying to find a guest. Okay. And it's all different. Wait, y'all can see that, right? Okay, good. It's all different kinds of topics. So if you want to get on podcasts and spread your brand and your awareness and stuff, you can go on this website. If you want to be a guest, you can go on this website. You can want to find a guest, you can go on this website. Check it out. In fact, there are more people on here who want to be a guest than people who are trying to find a guest. So if you're a podcaster, you've got an unlimited stream of people to be on your podcast. Now some of them you might want to vet. Some of them you might not want to vet. I don't vet people much anymore, because if you fill out all of my form to be on my podcast, you're kind of self-vetting, right? Especially since you're giving me permission to, you're acknowledging that I run a G-rated channel, and you're giving me permission to use a derivative work. So if you do those things, 9 times out of 10, by the time you get to sitting in front of me, we're pretty compatible as far as being able to produce an episode. You might want to interview some people. That's up to you. But the biggest thing about marketing isn't just getting people to listen to your podcast, because here's the deal with having guests. When you have a guest on your podcast, you are not only giving them exposure and time, but guess what they're doing? They are taking your information and they are now forwarding you to their audiences. So guess what you're doing? You are automatically growing your audience, because now you're being exposed to their audience. Isn't that brilliant? It's like the best way to solidify your place in the market, because pretty soon you'll figure out what people like and don't want, because with each guest, you're getting exposed to new groups and new audiences. Oh, it's fantastic. And see, this is the kind of stuff that people don't teach you. And what did I say about that group? Y'all, that group is free. I love me some free 99. Now, I like nice things too, and I'm not afraid to spend the money on the things I want, but I like free 99. All right. Now, I say I'm not afraid to spend money on the things you want. Some of you, the reason your business hasn't been growing, because you're afraid to spend money on the things you want, and you have the money to spend. I'm a very firm believer that if we don't, we're already an hour. I better get it going. One of the channels that I broadcast on, they're like, keep everything to 30 minutes. And I'm like, oops. Okay. But hold on. I think this is a good point though. I think it's a really good point. Some of you in your business, the reason your business is not growing is because you do not utilize the tools that are at your advantage to help grow the business. And see, when I was $800,000 in debt, and I made a commitment to living debt free, and I made a commitment to living for my future, living for my financial future, living in a way that I wasn't going to stay in debt forever, and I was going to be able to pass something on to my kids and to their kids. When I made that commitment, doors opened. Things came to me for free, dinners and activities for the kids, and a whole abundant lifestyle. If you looked at my Facebook channel, which was started right before the divorce, you would never have known how much debt I was in or how devastated that life was unless I told you. I was really living that whole Facebook fabulous life, not because I was trying to be fake or anything, but because things kept coming to me out of abundance. But then I came to a point now where it's like, okay, if you want to take things to the next level, you got to invest in yourself. And so the universe, and I dare say my faith, the Lord, holds you accountable for what you want people to do. You want people to pay $1,000 for your course, but you're not willing to pay $100 to sit down with me and have you do your podcast. You want somebody to pay you $10,000 for coaching, but you're not willing to sit down with somebody and get $1,000 worth of coaching yourself. So we've got to be able to do what we are wanting others to do. And that's why I tell people, like, even if all you send me is $1, if you PayPal or Cash at me, Queen of Cashflow USA, okay, actually on PayPal, and the Queen of Cashflow USA is my email, but on PayPal and Cash App, I think it's just Queen of Cashflow. But when we're doing our fundraisers, even if you just do $1, it shifts your energy. And the minute you invest in yourself, it shifts your energy. So if you've got the money and you haven't been spending the money, then I encourage you to invest in yourself, whether it's with my programs or anybody else's programs that's going to move your business forward, because that's probably the reason why your business isn't growing, if indeed it's not growing. But look, you $800,000 in debt. I want you to sign up for my affiliate program. Don't buy nothing from me. Sign up for your affiliate program. Make the money first by sharing my work. You make a healthy commission off of sharing my work, and then buy the money, spend the money. All right. Okay. So the last two things I want to talk about. One is how to profit with a podcast. I've already kind of talked about this a lot throughout, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. But basically, the profiting from a podcast isn't necessarily in the podcast itself. When you get big, you get sponsors, you get ads and things like that. And if you already have a great base of people that know, like, and trust you, day one, you can sell ads and sponsorship to the people that know, like, and trust you. If you were like me, military, every 2 years I was moving around and rebuilding my life. Well, I didn't always have a lot of people in the market that knew, liked, and trust me, because most of my friends were other military people. And as soon as we moved bases, some friends were for life, but most friends were friends of convenience. And I know that's a little pessimistic way to say it, but that's really what it was. Hey, we're all stuck here together. We're going to be here for each other. When we move on to other base, we're going to look for people we really like. So every base, I will collect like 1 or 2 people that I really gelled with, and we're still friends to this day. But I can't build a business off of 40 people. I need to build a business off of thousands of people. And that's what a podcast helps you do. It helps you build relationship with thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who get to know you. They get to know your voice. They get to know your family, or whatever you are willing to share. They get to know you through the podcast. So when you come out with a new product, they trust you and they buy it. When you come out with a new training, they trust you and you buy it. It's part of how you develop your 1,000 true fans. So when you're starting off with your podcast, keep that in mind and use your podcast to advertise your stuff. In fact, when you listen to all my old podcasts, very rarely, and it's only been recently, I've been getting sponsors reach out to me, and I've been turning them down because I knew with all the family issues and the accidents and stuff, I wasn't going to be as consistent as I felt like I should be. And I even told one, look, I'm not going to be consistent in the next 6 months. So I'll hit you back up when I'm back on a consistent schedule. And they were like, wow, I appreciate the transparency. But start off with being consistent and transparent, and be able to magnetize your audience, sell your stuff. You wrote a book, put that book in there. Look, did you see what I did with that Amazon? Look, let me put that slide back up. You can put your Amazon links on there. Let me go back. Talk about your podcast, put your Amazon links in the show notes. Put your Amazon links in the show notes. Link to your book, link to your class, link to all your stuff. And use your podcast for your business growth, to support your other streams. If you're a realtor or a realtist, use that podcast to talk about real estate or finances or what have you. And always remind people to go to your website and send referrals to your website. You have a photography business and you want to talk about photography. A podcast is an excellent way to learn more about your topic because you bring in experts who then teach you about what you want to learn. Isn't that fantastic? You're basically getting paid to get taught instead of having to pay to get taught. And you always want to put your website, put your stuff at the bottom of the screen if you're doing a video version. Put your stuff in the show notes if you're just doing audio. Speak it to create yourself a commercial. I was shocked the first couple of times I was on somebody's show and they had their own commercials. I was like, doesn't that defeat the purpose? No, it doesn't defeat the purpose. You put your commercials in there, and eventually somebody else is going to want to put their commercial in that slot. And that's when your money starts rolling in. But let me tell you one last thing about podcasting. The podcast is not going to make you any money if you're here today and gone tomorrow. Okay? The podcast is not going to work if you're here today and gone tomorrow. And a lot of times we start things, y'all, we start some things. We get all excited. We got the newsletter. We got the daily thought. We got the this and with that, the podcast, the vlog, the blog, whatever it is. And we get started. We gung ho. We get going for about a month and then nothing. We drop off. And then 6 months later, y'all have seen the messages. Some of y'all, you like me, have sent the message. Hey, everybody, I'm back. I had to do a reset. I had to take care of my health. I had to prioritize me. We drape it every way we want to drape it. But the bottom line was we did not set ourselves up to be consistent. And so I want to encourage you. I do realize that I had a lot of personal situations this year that make me the pot calling the kettle black right now. But if you go back and look at my podcast at Building Wealth Together and click podcast, you will see years of 3 podcasts a week for years. Okay. But I want you to make sure you do not make the mistake that I made at first. My podcast is a 3 episode a week podcast. Usually that content is pulled from these Thursday night classes. So we do the Thursday class live and then we extract it for the podcast. Sometimes we'll do special features like we did Sherry's Berries. Sometimes we'll do special interviews, okay? But don't do what I did in the beginning. I thought, I'm going to do an hour-long podcast every single day because you know what? I like to talk and people like to listen. Yeah. Most people who do a podcast, I'm going to tell you right now, starting out, most people would be good to do a 15 to 25-minute podcast once a week because it can be difficult to edit and post-production and transcribe your notes and your words and put them in the show notes to help increase your search engine optimization and to build the cover art. And if you've got to do the editing and all that for hours and hours and hours of content at a time, yeah, it's probably not going to last. And so you have to find a rhythm, a battle rhythm, and a consistency that allows you to show up every week, every time, every week. If you're going to do it every week, every month, if you're going to do it every month, every day, if you're going to do it every day. But if you don't know that you can do it every day, I'm going to recommend that you do a weekly or a monthly. I may not want to go monthly or quarterly because you don't want to get started and get lost. But when you're getting started, if that's all you can do, then do it. Now, when you're getting started, if you can't be consistent yet and you can do 2 this week and you do 1 that week, well, record them, but release them on a weekly schedule. Does that make sense today? Okay. All right. That is really all I have for you. Oh, well, no, that's not all I have for you today because I have an offer. Of course I have an offer. Okay. Because I care so deeply about empowering my people, I have an opportunity for you that is not going to last long. Okay. This is a one-on-one workshop with me. I'm going to sit down with you for 2 hours, and we're going to go through all these topics that you see listed on the slide, and we are going to produce your very first podcast. You can use it or don't use it. You can give me permission to use it or don't use it. It's completely in your control. Okay. But what you're going to have when you walk away from this, you're going to have the process of recording a podcast. You're going to have we're going to use Zoom. We're going to use Zoom. We might go into StreamYard depending on how much time we have and how quick or what platform you want to use. We're going to use whatever platform works for you. If phone is the platform, we'll use the phone, but you're going to get me screen recording, me editing it, and you can have that for life. Now, this is such a valuable workshop that I am only going to allow 5 people, 5 action takers to get this at the super discounted introductory price, because I know my value. I know how much time it takes to do this. I know how much time it takes to work and teach somebody something new that they've never done before. In this $500 value class, $499, I'm going to let you schedule for $99, but only for the first 5 action takers, because after that, the price is going to go up. So if you go into Calendly and you go to that link is at the bottom of my screen here, and the link that's on that slide there, if you go into Calendly and you see that it's not $99 anymore, then that will let you know that you were not one of the first 5. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm going to step it up bit by bit. So every time I get another 5, we're going to raise the price another $100 till we get to our final price of $499. Okay, that's how I like to do my introductory classes. I like to make sure that we got the feedback, I got the testimonials coming in, and then when we're ready to launch it at final price, boom, it's a final price. What that means for you is you get the blessing if you take the action. All right. I'm going to scan real quick for questions. I think I answered most of them as we were going through. And I do want to touch on, okay. Let me go back here. Okay, I answered the DJ question. Okay, I hope you like that. I hope you're going to take advantage of that information. There's somebody on here who's talking about starting a podcast around their new notary business. Now, I'm falling in love with notary business right now because there's going to be a lot of foreclosures and other documents that people need, mobile notaries especially. Okay. And so if you're interested, we have an old podcast that we released with somebody who teaches people how to be a really good notary. If I'd have known this comment was coming, I would have looked her up beforehand. And I don't want to bring up any more screens, but I might drop it in the chat later if I can find it. But I think that'd be wonderful. What you want to make sure with your notary business is you want to make sure you have enough content to do what you want to do. Okay. So for example, if your notary business is going to be the subject of the podcast, try to plan out try to plan out in advance at least 40 or so topics around the notary business. You're like, whoo, I can't come up with 40 topics around a notary business. I guarantee you one of 2 things. If you sit down for an hour, you should be able to come up with about 40 topics. The reason I say 40 and not 52 is because you're going to want to have guests on, and you're going to want to take vacations. So you don't need one for every week of the year, but you want to sit down and come up with topics. So what might a topic be? How do you get started? What might a topic be? Scams to watch out for notaries. What might a topic be? The value of a mobile notary. What might a topic be? How you could establish your notary business. So I've been in the military. I've lived all kinds of different places. I know notaries that set up at the UPS store for 2-3 hours a day, and they're there. I know other notaries at other places that are on call. Like, see how I just rattled that off, and I don't know that much about being a notary. I've just used them. How to price your notary services. Okay, I think we're up to 5 now. Okay, so you want to sit down and make those topics. And if you really sit down for an hour and you can't come up with at least 40 topics, then you might want to expand it a little bit bigger. So maybe most of the time you're talking about your notary business, but maybe you expand that and you talk about your notary business. Sometimes you talk about the financial freedom. Let me say that again. You talk about the financial freedom that your notary business gives. You talk about the travel that you could do. So we could come up, if we just look at the business and then we look at what the business gives you. Hold on, I'm going to draw this for you, okay? Because I don't want to get lost in this. Oh, y'all, I'm having fun with this. I hope you're having fun listening to it. Even though we're long, I figure I'm already way past 30 minutes, so we might as well just keep on going. All right, so I'm going to do this notary business as an example. Notary. Okay, let's say you've got a notary business, right? And you can come up with, I don't know, I came up with 5 and I don't know anything about it. And if you're still on, Miss Notary or Mr. Notary, I think I couldn't tell quite what, I can't tell where it went. If you're still on, you could drop some topics in, but let's say you came up with 20 topics about notary. Fill in a blank for your field, photography, babysitting, whatever it is. Okay, maybe you came up with 20 topics about notary. Weekly podcast, 52 weeks. Okay, this is what we're shooting for, 52 weeks of content. All right, we're going to have some vacation, and that's when you're going to do replays. All right, you're going to have some vacations, replays. Then you might want to have some guests. Now, on my podcast, I try to strive for about 50% guests. So if I had 20 topics for the notary, some of those might be guests, right? But I need more topics. I got 52 weeks to fill, and right now I'm up to 22. Okay. Financial freedom. That the business gives. Okay, and so I can think of different topics off of that. Okay, because you've got travel, you got family, you got buying a house, you got car, you bought that new bad handbag. Okay, you bought a fur. I'm not a big fan of furs right now, but I remember when all my friends were buying them. Okay, you see how I just did that? That's the financial freedom. So you're talking about all these extra things, but you relate it to the notary. Okay, you're talking about the financial freedom that your notary business gives, but you're talking about all these different things. Now, if you're listening to me as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast and you're not seeing what I'm drawing or you're not seeing the slides, then make sure you go to my YouTube channel, JJ Knows the Way, so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. I'm talking through all of it, but sometimes it's nice to just have the visual. So if you are listening to me as part of the podcast and you're listening audio only and not listening on YouTube, make sure you go to YouTube so you can see what I'm drawing out here, and make sure you go to YouTube so you can see the slides. All right. And so the financial freedom that the biz gives. Okay. Now that's financial freedom the biz gives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say you can come up with a ton more. Let's say that's 15. Okay. So now I got 20 plus 15 plus vacation is 2. What else can I talk about? Y'all, this is a big one for my ladies. Who thinks they know what I'm about to write? Oh, I hope you'll write it in the chat. Okay? The confidence that your business gives. Okay? Trauma, overcoming trauma. Okay? Finding the right mate or dealing with the mate. All right? Because when you have the confidence that you can make the money you need to make when you need to make it, then you don't have as much relationship drama because you're not going to hold that over my head. You are not going to abuse me or manipulate me because of money, because I can make my own money. Ooh, y'all. Overcoming negative parents, sisters, brothers, friends, high school people. Boy, we could really confidence. You could start off talking about notary business, roll into a ton of confidence topics on USA Today and USA Today, Psychology Today, and roll it back into your notary business. You know, here's one. What you no, that would be under notary. What you use a business for, what you actually use a notary for, that would be under your notary. Man, I'm having fun with this. Okay, so do you see what I'm saying? Here you go. Fire that toxic boss because you started that business. Okay, and so that could be another series of things that you could use for your podcast episodes. Then you could also do success stories. And you could edit. There we go. Let's see. Let's do that. There we go. Success stories. You can then interview other people who had notary businesses and now they're like 7 and 8 figure earners or 6 figure earners or whatever it is that moves the needle for you. Now look how I just did that all off of a topic that I don't even know much about. So you can do this for any topic, y'all. All right. Okay, that was a great question. All right, let's see what's next. Okay. Let's see. Party. I like to have random conversations and different things. Okay, so I love this to make sure that whatever you have, if people like, so wait. Let me rephrase that. You say you like to have random conversations and different things, and you're thinking of starting a podcast. I think that's fabulous as long as other people like having those random conversations with you. So as long as they like having that random conversation with you, then yes, go for it. But make sure there's an overarching theme, okay? Because one of the things we didn't talk about today that we would talk about in the big workshop, if you sit down with me, we will actually talk about looking at your purpose, vision, goals for the podcast. And then we will look at later on when we go down to marketing, we're going to look at how do we make sure that your cover art kind of tells the story. My cover art doesn't tell the story. Okay. And that's part of why we're rebranding. So let me show you that really quick. I mean, I really don't want to tell on myself too much, but I think this will be valuable for you because I think a lot of times people tell you stuff and then they don't actually, did I get rid of that? They don't actually let you see what their own feelings because nobody ever wants to be wrong, right? Nobody ever wants to be wrong. So let me go into Libsyn, JJ Conway. All right. You can also go to buildingwealthtogether.com and you can click that podcast. So let me stop that screen and let me show this. Okay. So my branding was okay. When I started this, I'm going to tell you right now, when I started Building Wealth Together, now that picture is fire though. Y'all see that picture? Ooh, I look good. I still look good, but I like that picture. When I started this podcast, I specifically started this podcast to be a podcast for Black people to talk about financial matters. So kind of like what Dr. Boyce Watkins does, except my focus has always been on building wealth and staying safe, equipping God's people. Okay. And I know that I broadcast to a lot of platforms that are not religious in nature, but that was my original thing is I specifically wanted to talk about podcasting. And I wanted to make sure when you looked at my title that you knew this was a podcast for Black people. When you looked at my cover art, I wanted you to know this was a podcast for Black people. Okay. But guess what happened? I found out that a lot of people were not putting my stuff, my cover art into their distro. Now it's on there if you go to iTunes or Apple Podcast or whatever it's called, right? But a lot of people weren't putting my stuff when they would advertise my podcast. They would not you know how Facebook shows you the preview? They would take down the preview that showed the African focus, and then they would put some other picture that they had of me instead. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help. Now, of course, it's been that way for 4 or 5 years, but that was my specific bent when I originally started Building Wealth Together, because working together, we're able to overcome the poverty that many of us have as a result of generational trauma. regardless of your religion, regardless of your country of origin. If you are willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with you. We build wealth together. We get further together. But my overarching goal was to support my community. So you want to make sure your cover art, and that is not a very good example of cover art because it didn't accomplish its goal. It did not accomplish its goal. So let me see if I can show you. No, I'm running out of time. I got to go. Let me answer some more questions. Okay. I like to make money. Yeah, I do too. Hey, San Antonio in the house. I'll be down there this weekend. All right. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I forgot to put y'all's comments up on the thing. Okay. You know what? I love this comment. It says, I'm wanting to travel through Mississippi cities doing live talks with everyday folks to unite and heal from traumas. Now, if you are listening to this as part of the podcast, make sure you go back and watch the YouTube version so you can connect with these different people that are making the comments, okay? Because I love that. I love that. And as long as you can figure out a way to do it, then you will be just fine. In fact, I think it was like my 5th or 6th interview on somebody else's podcast I actually did from the road. I no kidding took a big blue pop screen, a big blue, the green screen, one side's green and one side's blue. I put the blue screen up and I put the desk in front of my car and the car was my backdrop. And I literally recorded my interview right there from the road. And, sometimes sometimes those live action in the moment shots are the best. So that should be so much fun. Oh my goodness, that should be so much fun. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, y'all. I have been on for an hour and 30 minutes, and I know I have overextended my time, but I've had so much fun with y'all today. If you submitted questions in askjjc.com, I'm going to reserve those questions for next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about real estate. Every third Thursday is real estate. I'm excited for that. And so I will hold those questions until then. If you have an immediate question that you need to ask me, go out to facebook.com/groups/build wealth with JJ. You can find the Building Wealth Together Facebook group and you can ask your question and get an answer right away. That's all I've got for you today. Make sure you sign up if you want that special deal. Make sure you sign up at calendly.com/JJ Conway/podcast workshop. Let me say that again. Make sure you sign up at calendly.com/JJ Conway/podcast workshop. I will hands-on work with you to create your very first episode. And I can do that because even if we're talking about the same thing, none of us is exactly the same. So you have your audience that's going to hear your voice, and I have my audience going to hear my voice, and together we're going to change the world. Woo! All right, y'all. Y'all take care. Be blessed. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.